why Battlefield 6 needs more big maps. For many longtime fans of the Battlefield franchise, the promise of Battlefield 6 was not just another shooter, but a return to the sprawling, tactical warfare that defined classics like Battlefield 3 and Battlefield 4. Those games set a benchmark, maps that felt vast not for the sake of size alone, but because they offered purposeful space room for vehicles and infantry to maneuver, ample routes for flanking, retreat, and regrouping, and multiple theaters of conflict that could evolve organically over the course of a match. Battlefield 6's launch, by comparison, has stirred significant debate because it doesn't deliver enough of that experience. Many argue not that bigger maps are an arbitrary nostalgia play, but that they are structurally necessary for the team play and tactical depth that define Battlefield as a franchise. A central point in this debate stems from how Battlefield 6's maps compare to those of previous entries. Community research and comparisons have shown that by various measurements, Battlefield 6's maps are significantly smaller than many historical entries in the series. Indeed, community analysis suggests that none of BF6's maps exceed 0.5 square kilometers, which is smaller than comparable maps from games like Battlefield 3 and 4, where epic, vehicle-heavy environments shaped the tactical identity of the series. One classic map like Operation Firestorm in BF6 isn't even among the largest in franchise history when ranked side by side with older maps. This suggests a shift not just in design philosophy, but in actual battlefield scale. The immediate consequence of smaller map size is not merely aesthetic, it reshapes the rhythm of play. On compact maps, engagements are almost constant, spawn points feel close to hot zones, and players often find themselves RESPing back into chaos before they've truly had a chance to reposition. For players who relish large-scale conflict with tactical pacing, this environment can feel like an overcorrection toward fast-paced dogfighting at the expense of strategic coordination. One Reddit poster captures this perspective bluntly: Battlefield, to them, should feel like huge maps with multiple smaller combat areas surrounding one bigger combat area with lots of breathing room in between. Map size directly influences player behavior and team dynamics. Larger maps naturally encourage squads to work together. Traversing open terrain alone is risky, so players tend to form tactical groups that can cover each other, coordinate vehicle insertions, or execute complex flanking maneuvers. When the battlefield shrinks, the costs of isolation drop, and gameplay often devolves into frantic, individual-centric firefights with less emphasis on cohesion. Strategic objectives such as splitting forces to pressure multiple sectors, establishing crossfires, or orchestrating large vehicle assaults lose impact on a compact grid where everyone converges on the same few hotspots. This argument echoes a deeper sentiment among many veteran players. Battlefield isn't just about action density, it's about purposeful space. Too many high-intensity skirmishes in proximity reduces opportunities for meaningful planning, timely decision-making, and the satisfaction of executing a well-timed flank or pincer. Historically, well-designed large maps allowed for strategic downtime, those moments when repositioning matters, when a squad leader's call can change the course of a battle. Without that breathing room, gameplay risks feeling relentless but superficial. Developers themselves have acknowledged the controversy. In contrast to BF 2042's notoriously vast maps, which some players criticized for leaving too much empty space and long travel times between objectives, Battlefield 6's initial offerings leaned too tightly in the opposite direction. The BF2042 experience illustrated the pitfall of empty kilometers where traversal time diluted combat engagement. Ironically, the response in BF6 swung toward cramped engagements with limited strategic space. This highlights the design challenge of getting battlefield scale right. Too big can feel isolated and aimless, too small can feel claustrophobic and chaotic. Yet the fact that Battlefield 6 was launched with maps that many describe as mid-sized or even small by franchise standards has catalyzed the demand for classic-scale environments. Community feedback on forums repeatedly emphasizes that at least a portion of the map roster should be spacious enough to support diverse tactics, vehicle columns, aerial support coordination, cross-terrain flanking, and strategic withdrawals. These spaces are where teamwork thrives, where squads can differentiate roles: scout, commander, assault, support, and where players feel like they are part of a larger, evolving war rather than trapped in segmented brawls. There's also a nuanced argument that goes beyond pure size: its design philosophy. Community voices are increasingly pointing out that it's not just raw square meters that matter, but how a map's topography, objective placement, and flow enable meaningful player choices. Even relatively large maps can feel constrained if they push players into predictable lanes or offer too many sight lines that expose every approach. Properly designed large maps should balance open terrain with cover options, varied elevation, and multiple pathways that reward tactical thinking over brute force engagement. Some might argue that smaller maps produce more engagement density and reduce downtime, improving pacing for certain match types. This is a valid point. Not every mode or situation benefits from a sprawling battlefield, and there's room in the franchise for maps that emphasize intense, close-quarters combat. However, the core identity of a Battlefield Conquest game, historically its flagship mode, has always been about vast warfare where teams must coordinate across space and time. That identity gets diluted when the average map size shrinks. Developer statements have also indicated awareness of this balance. Battlefield 6's lead producer has publicly acknowledged that while smaller maps can highlight high-paced combat, the game still needs more large sandbox maps that support broader styles of play. This seems to suggest that future seasons or expansions could address the current imbalance, offering a healthier distribution across the spectrum from close-quarters fights to massive battles. Yet until those larger environments are widely available and well implemented, the community's craving for classic scale remains a salient critique. In conclusion, the argument for bigger maps in Battlefield 6 isn't simply a nostalgic longing for old-school Battlefield. It's rooted in how map scale fundamentally shapes team play, strategy, tactical diversity, and player agency. Big maps provide the physical space that makes teamwork meaningful, flanking routes consequential, and battlefield decisions strategic rather than reactive. While smaller maps have their place, they shouldn't dominate the core multiplayer experience or overshadow the franchise's defining strengths. If Battlefield 6 wants to fulfill its potential as a true evolution of the series, it needs to embrace major environments that allow players to think, coordinate, and execute at the scale that made the classic Battlefield experience so compelling.